Hey, welcome to Graphic Policy Television, GPTV. I'm Brett. San Diego Comic-Con has come and gone, and I know many of you, probably all two of you, are wondering my thoughts of the convention, of who are the winners and the losers. I've hinted and said throughout my videos at the convention for my day wrap-ups that I thought something felt a little bit different about this convention, and I've been thinking a lot as to exactly what that means. So here we are, my general brain dump as to what I thought about the convention as a whole. So let's start with the winners. We're going to go with that, and then eventually we'll kind of get to the, hey, what did I think as a whole? So the first is clearly a Labubu, or whatever the hell they are, those dolls that are ugly that seem to be the hot things right now. They were everywhere. Now, being everywhere doesn't mean it's actually a hot item. What's interesting is, though, people were stopping and taking photos, and I think I saw people with some blind boxes and stuff like that, which seemed to be really popular. I didn't see massive lines in front of those booths. So the question is while it was there, was it selling? Is this the new Funko Pop? What's the deal with that? I don't know. As a whole, I didn't see the lines that I would have normally expected when it comes to San Diego for anything. And we're going to talk about as far as losers in a little bit. But Labubu, or whatever the hell it is, however you pronounce it, felt like it was everywhere. There was a large amount of booths that had that. Next is comics in general. Without any dominant movie or television force, comics seem to have been a very dominant thing on the floor, and as a whole, kind of the show. Again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But particularly, you had something like publishers like Ignition Press doing their initial launch. They had a event off-site, which was awesome. It was really cool to see something different. Fanbase Press, another smaller publisher, had tons of panels. They were sponsoring tons of stuff. Big props to them. Z2 constantly had lines. They had some big names: Lawrence Brothers, Guar. Every time I went to go check out their booth, it felt like they had another signing of something going on. And massive lines to go out to check that out. Michael Kingston, I'll throw out props to him as well with the Headlock Comics. Every time I'd kind of look down that aisle, there always seemed to be lines in his general area. So people were there to check out wrestlers in his comics, and he seemed to do quite well when it comes to that. So yeah, I mean, it was really interesting is that it wasn't the Marvels, the DCs, some of the bigger publishers. It was a lot of what I'll call the smaller publishers, upcoming publishers, that kind of stood out from everyone. They had lines. They were kind of everywhere. It was awesome like that. Congrats to them. Another big winner, Godzilla. Godzilla was everywhere. We did the Super 7 off-site store. On the floor, there was tons of Godzilla stuff. It was Godzilla, Godzilla, Godzilla. Godzilla's back, apparently, and really, really popular. I mean, there was a lot of Godzilla tie-ins from all over the place. Next would be, I think, personally one of the biggest winners as far as companies was Wizard of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast, manufacturer, producer of Magic the Gathering, owned by Hasbro. They had an amazing off-site activation involving Magic the Gathering Spider-Man, which isn't out until, I think, September. It was an entire ballroom. They did it up like New York City. They were handing out comics. They were handing out demo decks and giving demos of Magic the Gathering Spider-Man. It was a lot of buzzworthy, lots of talk. Really, really impressive display. I haven't seen a display like that since many, many Gen Cons ago. When I started going to Gen Con, they would do things like that constantly. I rarely see something like that at San Diego Comic-Con, weirdly. But Wizards of the Coast knocked it out as far as that, but I think it extended beyond the Spider-Man display. They also, if you went to the Hasbro Pulse store, the two things that sold out quick and early was the two Magic the Gathering sets. They had an exclusive, and then they had an early release of Eternities, or whatever the latest set is. Both of those, gone quick, sold out. No other thing from Hasbro sold out like that until many days later, and I believe it was one G.I. Joe item on Saturday that I saw was sold out. I have no idea about Sunday, but when it comes to items like that, Magic the Gathering seems to be where it's at. We also know that Magic is still huge. I know a lot of people talk crap about it, but it was a really big boost for Hasbro in their quarterly reporting. Their latest financial reporting, like it clearly is huge and only getting bigger. So they showed up in force. It wasn't something that I would expect at San Diego Comic-Con, but it stood out. So props to them. Without anything, I would say major on the floor. This was a weird year. I'll talk about that in a little bit, and that there wasn't like tons of signings. There was tons of things to do on the floor. The outside stuff, the outside activations, there was lots of things. There was Alien Earth always seemed to be really popular. The Superman Old Spice seemed to be really popular. I know there was like a Ferris wheel in the back that was seemed to be pretty popular. That all did really, really well. So basically all the events that were outside of the convention center seemed, from what I can tell, doing well, and people really enjoyed it. Out of everything, like, when it came to talk post-convention, like the Alien Earth activation that was just outside the convention center was one of the things that consistently came up in conversations with people. Personally, I think it was a little odd to have basically what looked like barbed wire and kind of felt like a concentration camp on there. But, you know, tied into the show, it makes a lot of sense. But, you know, out of everything, that's the one consistent thing a lot of people talked about was what was going off, you know, outside of the site. Gas Lamp, they had a display of Star Trek New Worlds. People were dancing, like they hired dancers to do a display. Really popular, it had huge crowds. You know, it felt like it was outside the convention. That's what people were talking about. As a whole, we saw it felt like video games had a bigger presence, maybe just because everything else had less of a presence. They're usually towards the far right going into the convention center. They were there. They had their place in, I think, the Marriott Marquis. And as always, you know, it was busy. It's always busy over there. But beyond video games, tabletop games seem to be creeping on the floor more and more. We had Overpower on the floor giving demonstrations. The Gloomhaven team was on the floor. They were there, I think, the last time it was at San Diego Comic-Con. Up on the mezzanine, the rooms full of gamers constantly had stuff going on. Tabletop games is a category I think can go huge at San Diego Comic-Con. The only issue is Gen Con is the next week, which makes logistics a little difficult, but they seem to do a great job for what was there. But as a whole, and this is kind of getting into the losers thing, the biggest winner was fandom as a whole. There was nothing that stood out this San Diego Comic-Con. I know it seems odd. Maybe you disagree with me on that, but to me, there was no one thing that buzzed, that everyone went nuts. If you were a fan of Peacemaker and what DC Studios is doing, there's stuff for you. If you wanted to go see George Lucas and Guillermo del Toro, like, there was stuff for you. If you were into Alien Earth, there was stuff for you. If you were into Godzilla, there was stuff for you. If you were into Gundam, stuff for you. If you're into comics, for, you know, horror, whatever, there was something. It was, I think, the first San Diego that I've been to that felt like it had something for everyone, and it was all an even playing field. There was no Hall H domination. There was no crazy displays with drones. It was just straight up a celebration of pop culture and fandom, no matter what your fandom is, and I think that is awesome. It also means that San Diego Comic-Con in the future can go in many, many directions. Who knows what next year is going to bring, but I'm excited to see that. But that kind of brings us to the losers. To me, exclusives. There was nothing that really jumped out as like the buzziest thing on the floor. If you walked around the floor beyond preview night and Thursday, it was pretty easy to go up and get exclusives. I walked into the Hasbro booth on Friday, I think like early morning, and just walked right in to go grab the one thing I want. I think the last time I did that was last time I was in San Diego, and I had to wait till Saturday or Sunday to go do that because the lines were still huge. It was just walk in and grab what you want. You did not see the swarming, for the most part, at booths like you normally saw. It was a very different year when it came to items and exclusives. Not saying exclusives weren't popular. It was just you did not quite see the shark frenzy that you have seen in years past. And that also means that no one stood out. No publisher really, really stood out. No one, I would say, won San Diego. A lot of people did really well. There was a lot of really cool stuff. There was a lot of people that walked away super happy, super excited, loved what they took part. But nothing, I think, walked away that like won the convention to the point that this is what everyone's talking about. There was no trailer that everyone said, oh my god, check this out. There was no panel that everyone said, oh my god, you got to see this, check this out. There was no one booth or one event that people stopped and said, go check this out. But there was a lot of discussion of a lot of things there. The discussion was wide but not deep, if that makes sense. So that also, I think, opens up a really interesting potential for the future. On the comic side of things, and not just comics, but others do too, a lot of the news for San Diego is front-loaded, pre-convention. Then you get the follow-up post-convention of like, hey, here's things that we announced, here's what you missed. What I would expect, and if I was doing PR, I would be dropping things during the convention. I think there is a wide open gap. If next year is very similar to this year, a wide open gap for a comic publisher, toy company, somebody to drop the mic and really run wild with announcements and steal the show. It is, I actually think, a not difficult thing to do to suck up the oxygen with a couple really good announcements or one really good announcement. It's just we did not see much of that this year, and even last year during the show it was sort of dead. It's really, really fascinating. I understand people are busy, they've got things to focus on during the convention, but I think there's opportunity there that someone smart will take advantage and basically steal the show from everyone. So that is my thought on San Diego Comic-Con. The big thing that I've really come to the conclusion was this was a year where nothing stood out. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but a lot of stuff was discussed. People clearly loved what they saw. People had a wide variety of what they loved to see. And there was a wide variety of discussion coming out of it, but there was not just one or two things or just a few things that dominated that conversation, and that is a wonderful thing. San Diego Comic-Con is clearly one of the biggest, if not the biggest, conventions out there. In name recognition alone, it's probably the biggest convention out there. And it turning into a convention for everyone that all fandoms, all pop culture can celebrate, be a part of, have fun, and no one feels left behind, left out, or ignored is an amazing opportunity for the convention, for fans, for San Diego, the city, everyone. That's my thoughts. Went fairly long on that one, but you had to get everything in there. I want to hear what your thoughts are. Did anything stand out for you? Is there anything that was announced that you were excited for? Was there anything I missed? I would love to hear if you agree or disagree with me on that. Sound off in the comments. And as always, you want the latest news, we're still running San Diego Comic-Con news. We're still getting those post-convention hits. You can check us out at graphicpolicy.com. We'll have our San Diego highlight box on the front page for a bit longer. And as always, you can get the latest comic news. Check us out, graphicpolicy.com. And of course, follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Mastodon, Threads, Blue Sky, all at Graphic Policy, keeping it nice and consistent. So until next time, keep reading those comics and keep it geeky. Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.